Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you lost without even knowing why? What if your silence, the very thing you thought made you weak, was your greatest weapon? Imagine commanding a room without raising your voice. What if true strength meant saying nothing at all? Welcome to Stoic Blend, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Today, we reveal the quiet strategy used by the strongest minds in history, how to outsmart anyone, not through words, but through silence. We've all been there, caught in a discussion where, even after saying everything we meant to, we leave feeling small, unheard, defeated. You may have faced people who dominate the room with loud voices, quick insults, and a kind of false confidence. And maybe, like many, you've believed that staying silent was weakness, that not defending yourself was surrendering, that not reacting was losing. But what if that belief was completely wrong? What if silence wasn't a sign of defeat, but the clearest signal of inner power? According to the Stoics, especially the likes of Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, strength has never rested in noise, it rests in presence. And the strongest presence is often the quietest. Silence is not the absence of words. It's the presence of something far greater. Control, calm, self-mastery. When you remain silent in a world that demands reaction, you confuse people. You unbalance them. You force them to look inward, something most aren't ready to do. This message is for those who walk away from conversations feeling dismissed, for those who feel invisible in rooms filled with shouting egos, for those tired of being taken for granted simply because they don't fight back. You may have mistaken your silence for submission, but today, you'll learn that silence is a tool, a blade, a boundary, and if used with intention, it can help you outsmart anyone. Why do we feel such urgency to react, to correct, to defend our ideas? Because we've been conditioned to believe that silence is surrender, that truth must be defended at all costs. But the Stoics would disagree. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." You don't need to defend truth. Truth stands on its own. You don't need to be loud to be right. And you certainly don't need to be reactive to be powerful. Most people argue not for truth but for dominance. They don't seek understanding. They seek validation, not from others but from themselves. They fear disagreement because deep down, they fear being wrong. They confuse opposition with attack, and they enter every discussion like it's a war. But here's the Stoic lesson. When you feel the urge to defend yourself, you've already lost your peace. You've entered their game, and that game is always designed to take your energy. Instead, choose the path of stillness. Choose the path of the observer. Stoicism teaches us that true power lies in the refusal to be provoked. When you don't react, you shift the dynamic. The louder they become, the calmer you remain. And in that contrast, you gain control. Silence becomes not just your shield, but your sword. Because here's the truth. Those who talk too much reveal too much, and those who must convince others are already losing the argument. Think of the Stoic sage. He doesn't speak to prove. He speaks with purpose. If words don't serve clarity, he doesn't speak them at all. Now imagine you in a heated conversation. Everyone's expecting you to respond, but you don't. You observe, you watch, you hold. And in that pause, everything shifts. People panic when their expectations aren't met. Silence creates discomfort, and in that discomfort, they expose themselves. They reveal their insecurities, their arrogance, their contradictions. They crumble, not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. There is a reason silence is feared. It leaves room for reflection, and most people don't want to reflect. They want to win. They want to be right, not to be wise. When you choose silence, you deny them the battlefield. You remove the fuel, and without your reaction, their fire dies. This is not weakness. This is restraint. This is control. This is mastery. In psychology, silence in a confrontation is often perceived as judgment. People project their own insecurities into that silence. Are they judging me? Do they see through me? Why aren't they responding? Their inner voices grow louder. Their own doubts consume them. You've said nothing, and yet you've said everything. This is why silence devastates manipulators. They rely on your emotions, your reactions, your eagerness to defend. But when you don't react, when you remain centered, they lose control. They scramble. They expose themselves. And you remain unmoved. This is the Stoic art of outsmarting anyone without speaking. Let's explore 4 silent weapons that Stoicism offers. 1. Stillness during urge. When everything inside you screams to respond, don't. That's when silence is the most powerful. Because in that moment, you're not just quieting your voice, you're quieting your ego. 2. The hunter's observation. While others speak to be heard, you listen to understand. Like a hunter watches his prey not with emotion, but with intention. You hear what's not being said. You notice the cracks. You store the information, and if you respond, it's sharp, precise, and devastating. 3. The weight of pause. Let silence linger. A long pause creates discomfort. That discomfort becomes power. People will try to fill the space, and in doing so, reveal more than they intended. 4. Unpredictability. When you master silence, you become unreadable, unpredictable, and the unpredictable is always feared. People start adjusting to you. You no longer chase energy, you pull it. But be careful. Not all silence is strength. There's another kind inborn from fear, from suppression, from resignation. The silence that lets others dominate you. The silence that swallows your truth. This is not Stoicism. This is submission. True silence must be intentional, not habitual. If you're staying silent because you're afraid, you're giving away your power. Many have convinced themselves that avoiding conflict is maturity, but often it's surrender wearing the mask of peace. Ask yourself, have you allowed others to walk over your silence? Have you mistaken being agreeable for being wise? Has your calm become the path others use to take what's yours? If so, you're not protecting peace. You're betraying yourself. The Stoics would tell you, this kind of silence must die, and in its place, a new silence must rise. The silence of the master, not the servant. The silence of the one who chooses when to speak and when to remain, still not the one too scared to be heard. So how do you reach that level? By embracing the silence of presence. A silence that radiates strength, that does not apologize, that does not shrink. It doesn't beg for approval, it commands respect. You speak only when your words can no longer be ignored. You remain silent when noise is nothing more than distraction. This is how you outsmart not by overpowering them, but by never entering the game they want you to play. You are not here to win arguments. You are here to master yourself. Let others speak over each other. Let them get lost in their need to be right. You choose when to speak, and more importantly, you choose when not to. Now it's your turn. If you're ready to embrace the silence that commands respect, comment below. I choose the silence of strength. Let it be your first quiet declaration of power. And don't stop here. Watch our next video. It will build on this foundation and take your inner mastery to another level. Because remember, the weak shout, the strong remain silent, but the wise, they know exactly when to speak.